From the All Indiana Podcast Network, it's the Canine Lowe-Down, helping you get wise to the whys behind your dog's behavior.
That's a good boy.
With the American Dog Whisperer, Nathan Lowe.
Hi there, I'm Nathan Lowe, the American Dog Whisperer, and you're listening to the Canine Lowe-Down. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm a dog whisperer, or so my clients and followers say. One of the most frequent questions I'm asked is, have you ever come across a dog you couldn't help? I suppose another way to say this is, ever encountered a dog who couldn't be whispered? Yes. The answer is yes. I'll talk about the reasons why on this episode of the Canine Lowe-Down.
Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/trial and get started.
Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
I suppose we should start today's episode by defining what I mean by whispering. Obviously, and I think most people understand this, I'm not talking about whispering in the sense of talking quietly to a dog or coming very softly to a dog. We're talking about whispering as the ability to cause a dog to behave in a balanced, attentive, docile way. Okay? And when I say the ability to cause that, I'm not talking about through draconian means or cruel means. The ability to cause a dog to behave in a balanced, attentive, docile way through using tools the dog understands, through using tools the dog would use with its own kind. But are there dogs that can't be whispered? And what are those situations? Yes, and number one, dogs with neurological involvement. One symptom of neurological involvement that I've seen is a dog responding wrongly to corrective body language. So I was in a home one time with a dog that was acting up and acting out. And when I would kind of bristle out, as it were, get big, ask the dog to back off, though the dog would quiet down and I could feel the temperament of the dog would become more peaceful, the dog would actually walk up to me in a confrontational way and actually put its head into my space, but in a way that wasn't confrontational, even though for a dog coming into your space is confrontational when you're confronting them. It was such a backwards, cross-wired response from a dog. It really threw me because I had not seen that. I don't know that I'd ever seen that up to that point, a dog give the opposite physical response to what they're supposed to respond to while still not confronting. That was a sign that because the dog wasn't reading things properly, even though I was quote-unquote speaking dog by my body language, that dog was going to be able to be helped in a very limited way because it couldn't read the signs. Also, and kind of along the same lines, dogs who don't respond to visual cues, and I have encountered dogs like that appear to have some neurological involvement. I give them a visual cue that has worked for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dogs. It is an approximate of a dog body language cue, and they literally, it does not register for them. Well, in that case, because a dog's primary language is body language and they're not reading it, There's nothing really more you can do at that point. You can devise some other alternative things, but you're going to have limited success with that. Also, dogs who exhibit what I call storming behaviors, where they're they're gone all of a sudden. A friend of mine was telling me about a dog of hers that had this happen. She was actually showing him. He was a beautiful show dog, a Mastiff. And one day she went to feed him. He was a docile, sweet show dog. Went to feed him, and he attacked her and grabbed her head in his mouth, her entire head. She said she thought that was lights out for her. This was the end of the road. But he stopped with that, held her head in his mouth, and then let go as if nothing happened, and just went about eating and acting like, okay, everything's cool. She said she fell against the inside of the kennel. She went into shock with what had just happened. Her husband found her there, and she knew something was wrong, because that was not a normal thing for a dog out of nowhere to just react aggressively when there's no stimuli, when the same thing that's been done over and over was done, and then the dog had a reaction they'd never had before. In this case, the dog was examined by a university medical team and did end up having a brain tumor and had to be put down. And so what she told me she realized after the fact, as a very knowledgeable woman with dogs, is that the tumor had caused the dog to storm neurologically and act out in unpredictable ways. And again, with a situation like that, you can't train or do anything about that. It's a storming of the neurology. There's nothing you can do at that point. So number one, dogs with neurological involvement are dogs who can't be whispered, in the sense of they can't be brought to a state of understanding what is being asked in a canine way, because there's a factor neurologically that throws them off. Number two, what are some other dogs who can't be whispered? Dogs whose owners cannot provide canine style leadership. Now you say, well, what do you mean by that? What I mean is, dogs who are experiencing some pretty significant issues, especially in the realms of aggression, dominance, extreme behaviors that are becoming a danger to themselves, other dogs, and even humans, but the owners they're not able to provide the canine style leadership that another canine would provide, where they deal with it, they confront it, they physically say, that's enough, you have to stop. This can be due to physical limitations. I remember I was called out on a consult probably 2 or 3 years ago, and a couple had adopted a dog from the shelter. This was a pit bull dog, extremely sweet dog, but extremely physical, as pit bulls are wont to be. These were very elderly people who were not that mobile. And when I walked in and saw them and kind of their hesitant gait, they were up in years, and saw this dog in their midst, just, let's go, let's do something. I realized just from looking, this is not going to work. This is a hazard. This dog needs owners who are able to physically match the dog and say, hey, that's enough. They need to grab a collar. They need to stand up to the dog. They need to bump the dog back, say, that's enough. You need to calm down now. Without that, the dog can't be helped, because what the dog's going to do is exert dominant signals over and over and over and over again to this elderly couple until the dog becomes so large and in charge, nothing can be done at that point except to put the dog somewhere where there's leadership, physical leadership exerted, canine-style physical leadership. And again, I'm not talking about hitting a dog. Canine-style physical leadership exerted so that dog can come to balance. But if you have an owner who is not physically strong enough to do that, that dog can't be helped in that situation. Now, another category of dogs whose owners can't provide canine-style leadership is owners who have become afraid of their dog. And I've had situations like this where I did recommend a rehome because the life projected for the dog and the life projected for the people, neither one was good. The outcome was not going to be good. Often this happens because people have a dog that does fine for a while, and all of a sudden it manifests some type of aggression with food or with a situation that the household's never encountered before, and it actually bites the owner or severely or injures the owner in some way. I've seen owners that aren't afraid of that, and I've seen owners that from then on, they just distrust the dog. At that point, when there's fear, there's no way to lead a dog. There's no way to lead them to balance, because your fear is automatically in a dog's mind a submissive, weaker form of membership in the pack. And the dog, again, is going to be parental and dominant and authoritative over that. And so that dog cannot be brought to balance with a fearful owner. Now, thirdly, and this is a little less of a major factor, but I have seen owners who can't provide canine style leadership just because of temperamental mismatch. I have met folks who are so sweet, so gentle, so kind, that to rise up, even in a canine parental way, just like a puppy's mother and father say, "Rah," when it's time, for this person doing that would just shift something in their personality that they are not comfortable with. And I totally understand that. But without being able to do that, and when you have a dog that needs that, the dog can't be helped. The dog can't be brought to balance or harmony, because you have to be able to replicate, especially with a very forceful, dominant dog, you have to be able to replicate how the parent would handle that situation. So you have a gentle human versus a dominant dog. That is usually not a match that works out well, and the dog usually isn't very helped by that particular owner. It's not a good match. So first, dogs with neurological involvement. 2, dogs whose owners cannot provide canine style leadership. Now, number 3, what is another category of dogs who can't be whispered? Dogs whose owners will not provide canine style leadership. So it's not so much about the fact that they can't because of physical limitations. It's not because they're afraid to. It's not even because they feel like, oh, I'm going to alter myself as a person. They just don't want to. Usually when I find this situation, it's because the human is conflating a dog with a human, especially with a human child. I would never treat my child this way. Right, but you're dealing with a canine who is strong, who is dominant, who is starting to run your house. And unless you are willing to say, look, dude, or madam, depending on if you have a girl or a boy dog, I am stepping up to the plate as a canine mom, as a mama wolf or a papa wolf, as I often tell my clients, and you're not going to get away with this because you're not going to have a peaceful life like this. You're going to risk confronting the wrong dog or the wrong person. You are going to listen to the head of the pack, the mama or the papa of the pack, and I'm going to step to you and say, it's enough. I'm calling it. Here's the boundaries. But when people think of a dog as like a person and they realize, oh, I got to step and say, hey, and step toward them, step emphatically toward them to ask for space, and they feel like, I would never do that to my kid. Well, I hope not. Stepping at your kid in a kind of a challenging, threatening way would totally be the wrong thing to do. But it's a human. It's a human. It's not a dog. And dogs don't handle their society the way humans handle theirs. So if you know the steps you should take in the canine world and you just say, nope, I'm not willing to do that, you're not going to be able to help your dog. Now, there's another interesting reason that dog owners just refuse to provide canine style leadership for their dogs. And that's because they actually like some of the behaviors their dogs have that really confirm to the dog they're running things. They confirm the dog's authority and cause the dog to retain authority. Let me tell you what some of these are. Lap sitting. When a dog sits on top of you, they absolutely are claiming you in their mind. 100%. If you put a dog that wouldn't normally sit on your lap, you're telling that dog, you can claim me. When a dog claims you, they're going to be watchful. They're going to see who comes around you. Now, you may say, well, my dog doesn't do that. Well, okay, but the dog is still in that frame of mind. And usually the fallout I see from a non-dominant dog who sits on top of somebody is they run interference. If you're trying to pet another dog, if you're trying to maybe hug your husband or wife or kids, they'll kind of get in the middle. Or if you try to correct them, they tend to kind of go off sometimes at the doors or windows because they got a human puppy in here. They sit on them all the time. You have to watch that. But if you like some of the behaviors. I like my dog to sit on top of me. I like my dog to lay in my bed with me. I like to hand feed my dog. These things are signals to the dog that you actually are an underranking entity in your home. This will keep the dog in charge and deciding what or what not to listen to from you. And you can't help them pass their issues when you're in that position. Now, the other mentality I've seen from folks that creates a situation where a dog can't be whispered, can't be helped, is there is a commitment to baby or spoil a dog, especially if the dog's had a difficult past. And now I'm telling you, I know that so many shelters mean well, but I see this all the time, that shelters say, this baby just needs to be spoiled. No. This dog, canine, Canis lupus, apex predator, domesticated, needs leadership, needs boundaries, needs structure, needs harmony, needs peace. And that will only be created by you replicating the behaviors of a parental dog, and that dog can come to peace. And if you're not willing to do that, you say, no, I just want to baby them, you will give your dog a job it doesn't want, which is to parent you. And in that case, you cannot help your dog pass the issues, especially if you got a dog from a shelter that has issues. You can't help them pass that by babying them. Now, a related issue, another reason that a dog can't be whispered or helped sometimes is because folks just don't want to do anything that appears to them to be negative, to the human to be negative. You can't worry about that. Dogs don't. Dogs have a certain range of communication they use to communicate, nope, that's not acceptable socially. Yes, that's acceptable socially. And if you're not willing to engage in their society and move into their space and say, I'm gonna learn from you how to communicate, you're not going to be able to bring them to harmony and to peace like you want them to. Let me say this. People love their dogs. I know that. But if your love doesn't drive you to lead your dog, to say, if I can provide leadership, I'm going to. Or if you say, I cannot physically provide the leadership and balance this dog needs, and so this may not be the home for them. Or, you know what, my dog's giving some signs of neurological involvement. I maybe should get this checked out. They're not responding right. You need to be aware of this. And again, I would say to you, dogs who can't be whispered, let's review. Dogs with neurological involvement, giving strange signals, if your dog's doing that, have them checked out. Dogs whose owners cannot provide canine-style leadership. There's physical limitations. You're afraid of your dog, maybe, or there's just a temperamental mismatch. You're too soft to handle this particular dog that's so strong and so forceful. That is a situation where you should know we're not going to be able to solve the dog's issues. Thirdly, if you just say, I'm not going to do that, and believe it or not, I have had clients tell me that, nope, not going to do that. That is totally fine. Listen, I'm not here to judge that, okay? It's not for you to, that a dog is your property. They, under the law, they're your property. You are totally free to do what you want. I don't go away thinking, wow, what an idiot. No, I'm not there to tell you, you must do this to your dog on penalty of moral judgment. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, if you know the leadership your dog needs and you will not provide it, their issues will not be solved. It's just the way it works. Just know, love your dog enough to provide the leadership they need, and know that you may not be in a situation always to whisper a dog. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Canine Lowe-Down. It has truly been an honor to have you with me. Remember, some dogs can't be whispered. Sometimes it's because of something inherent with the dog, like a neurological issue. Sometimes it's something with the humans, like the human isn't strong enough. The human is afraid. The human has a temperamental mismatch. That dog can't be whispered. Or the human just says, I just am not going to do that. I'm not going to follow through in this way with this dog. I'm just not going to do that. Understood, but you're not going to be able to help your dog with the issues. Please, please understand that. If you have questions or comments or would like to book a dog training consultation with me, you can do so by visiting my website, AmericanDogWhisperer.com. Thanks for listening to the Canine Lowe-Down. Join me next week when, once again, I'll help you get wise to the whys behind your dog's behavior. I'm Nathan Lowe, the American Dog Whisperer. See you soon.
This is the Canine Lowe-Down with the American Dog Whisperer, Nathan Lowe. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast, and be sure to check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Online now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.